Well, hello, General Hospital Daily Recap fans. Today's daily recap is for Thursday, December the 19th, 2024. Well, this was kind of like a filler day. It was an okay day, but nothing earth-shattering happened. Um, Jordan and Isaiah got stuck in the steam room. Isaiah ventured into the women's steam room and Jordan walked in, and somehow the door was stuck and they couldn't get out. So they were in there for a while. They're banging on the door, and somebody says, I heard somebody asking for help. And they're like, yes, yes, the door's stuck. We can't get out. And this chick is pulling on the door. But when she hears Isaiah's voice, she goes, Sir, you're in the women's bathroom, sauna room. And he goes, It was an accident. I'm new here. I wandered into the wrong one. And George's like, can you just get help, please? So she goes, I'll go get help. So they have to wait, and then someone comes to help them. It almost looked like a fireman for some strange reason. He goes, the door wedge was stuck in the door. Now let's think about that statement for a moment. The door wedge. Jordan walked in. Who shoved the door wedge up under the door? Somebody did. Remember when Sasha went in, her water broke, and she was stuck in that room when she went into labor with little Liam? Remember, it was Esme that stuck the wedge in the door, right? Now, what I also don't get, the chick that was pulling on the door, you mean to tell me she didn't look down and see there's a door wedge in the door? She didn't. She pulling on the handle, pulling on the. Okay, thumbs up. But either way it goes, who wanted to seal Jordan and Isaiah in the sauna? And actually, the sauna steam was turned up because Isaiah's like, and they're hearing it, and he's like, "Is it getting hotter in here?" And Jordan's like, "Yeah." So, anybody aside from me think that was Sidwell? Except Sidwell would have just taken Isaiah out if he wanted to, realistically. And I don't know about you all. That sauna door had glass. It was glass. In the whole top part of it, it was glass. Why wouldn't you just break it? It wasn't unbreakable glass. Before I possibly dehydrate to death until somebody finally comes and gets me, I'm going to break that glass. I'm going to let some of that steam out of there, right? But anyway, that was just a way for them to put those two together. They have good chemistry writers. We don't need chemistry testing because they got it, right? Um, I actually would like them as a couple. I don't even want them to try to make Molly as the a third the triangle at all. It should be Jordan. I really like Jordan with Isaiah. So anyway, um Curtis. Drew is saying, why is it you don't seem too concerned about my company stock falling and being in jeopardy? And he said, that's because the problem has already been corrected and the stock is already rebounding, Drew. It was a clerical mistake. He goes, last quarter's report got, leaked as current report. He goes, don't, but it's been corrected. So he says, Curtis, I mean, how could you let this happen? And he goes, Drew, he said, Has there been any problems, any complaints about my performance until today? And Drew said, no. He goes, okay, okay. So if that's the case, now you and I got an understanding, a good understanding that you were going to make me CEO. He says, then why is it you decided to offer it to Michael, to give it to Michael? And Drew looked, and Curtis is looking at him like, well, and he goes, Curtis, Michael has more CEO experience than you. Michael has run it before. I was going to put you back in the wellness division with a healthy bump in pay. He said, but that's not what you promised me, Drew. That is not what you led me to believe. He says, you know what, Curtis? So am I to take it you are in league with Michael? He said, because, Curtis, I'm going to have to let you go. Whoa, just like that. Curtis, I'm going to have to let you go without care in the world. He goes, you were supposed to be my friend. He goes, you all probably deliberately did this. And Curtis said, friend? You're not treating me like a friend. You were going to stab me in the back. My friend Drew would not have done that, or I thought. And Drew says, this is my company that I built from the ground up, and I make the decision. See, no, I just caught you in a lie. Because the last time we talked, and I wanted you to make it official with the press release, you said, no, it's too soon. I got other stuff to do. Look, I'll have my secretary pencil you in on the 22nd. We'll talk then. See, you still was stringing me along. And so he goes, well, in league with Mike or not, you still have to go. And Curtis says, well, actually, no, Drew. I'm the CEO of Aurora. And he looked, he goes, what are you talking about? He said, well, you see, Drew, you are now the minority shareholder in Aurora. Michael has the majority of the stock. And Michael named me CEO. Oh, and it's in writing. And Drew looked at him. He goes, so don't you all think the SEC is going to have something, is going to look at that suspiciously? And Drew said, no, it was a clerical error. Michael bought up stock and named me CEO. And so Drew says, I am absolutely not going to stand for that. I am going to, and then Curtis says, oh, well, Drew, you know what? See, why were you offering the CEO position to Michael? And Drew looked at Curtis. He says, oh, you offered it. You can't say it out loud, but I could say it out loud. You were trying to appease Michael, but guess what? You were sleeping with Michael's wife. And Drew stood there. And Curtis looked at him. He says, I really don't think you're going to be saying too much about it. Kind of like, because if it gets out, Mr. Congressman, you ready to give all that up? Curtis just looks at him. He says, now, as a minority shareholder, you still are going to make handsome profits. He says, because Aurora has been thriving and I am the CEO for the next 5 years. And I'm going to make sure that this company soars. Now, see, to me, I'm thinking, Curtis, you too cocky. Curtis, you showed your hand too much as far as I was concerned, right? So, as Drew is leaving, Curtis is standing up, like face to face with Drew. Like, what you gonna do, friend? Mm-hmm. Friend. And so Drew is leaving the office. Oh, this isn't it. And Curtis says, "Oh, Drew." He slides Drew's name out the door plate. That's a Drew Kane still. I think it still says Drew Kane, CEO. And he's reaching out to hand it to Drew. Like, take your nameplate, buddy. Drew looks at him and he walks away. And Curtis takes the name tag and flips it right on the floor outside. like, take it out the trash. Trash. That was funny to me. Oh my God, that was so funny. Martin goes to serve Michael at the Quartermaines. And Tracy's like, what's in those papers? He goes, privileged information. And Tracy says, no, look, I know you have the money for a process server. Why are you serving it yourself? And he goes, my business, right? And she goes, now let me guess. She didn't say skank. She used some other word. That's Skank Willow and her skank of a mother hired you to represent those skanks to try to keep Michael's children away from him. And he looks at her. He goes, again, I can't discuss that with you. She goes, well, let me discuss this with you. Understand this. Are they waging war? Because Michael has the full support of the Quartermaine family and the Quartermaine money. And more powerful, richer people have tried to take us on, and they've all lost. We're still standing. The skank of a willow of a wife and the skank of a mother ain't gonna be no different. And Martin just kind of chuckled. He goes, ooh, like goodness, y'all, you something else. Right. So he ends up leaving and Tracy didn't care. So Michael finds well, not Michael. Martin finds Michael at the gym. He and Chase had been talking. I fast forwarded their conversation. Talk about St. Willow. Willow look for the good in everybody. Willow this, Willow that. And, Willow's in it. No, shut up, y'all, both of you. And Michael said, is this karma? Pretty much, Drew is doing to me what I did to you with Willow. And Chase looked at Michael. He says, Michael, actually, it was completely different, right? Because really, Michael and Willow were together and we're going to let Chase know, right? Because Chase still had a thing for Willow, but that was it. And when Willow went to Chase's apartment to tell Chase, you know what, Chase? I don't feel the way you feel for me. I'm in love with Michael. Chase had his little, wasn't a stroke. Remember the poison set in and Willow was there when he collapsed. And thank God she was because Chase would have died had nobody been there, right? And then it snowballed from there. They thought he was going to die. His dying wish was to marry. It was, we all know the story. So he goes, actually, Michael, not the same thing at all. You and Willow were meant to be together. And he goes, but Michael, you had the tape and the information. Why did you not let Willow know you had it? And Michael said, because I was afraid of what she might do. I was looking at me and Willow's marriage, our family, our relationship, like we were perfect. He goes, that's what we had is what I wanted in a family. I was living it. And I felt that if I confronted Willow with it, the truth, I might just lose her right then. And I wasn't ready. And I thought, well, that's a little pathetic, but okay. Gee, guy, that's like, okay, honey, I know you leaving this our house to go sleep with my uncle. I'll be here when you get back. Like kick rocks, Michael. Grow some. Let your mama take over. She'll show you how it's done. So anyway, um, he says, but Michael, why is it that you and Willow have a history of not telling each other the truth? And Michael says, I don't know. I mean, they were really getting deep into the conversation. But anyway, Chase leaves. Martin finds Michael, gives him the paper, and says, Michael Corinthos, you consider yourself served. Michael opens up the paperwork, and it's an official separation, right? Right then and there. Now, Willow comes home from, the little charity event. And Nina says, Willow, I got to talk to you. She goes, well, what's going on? And Willow saw the whole place, thought it was beautiful, and said, you did all that for the kids? And Nina said, I did it for you too. So she goes, but I did something else too. And you may not like it when you first hear it, but I did it for you. She goes, what did you do? And she told him about Martin. And she goes, I had him draw up paperwork for a separation. Now, see what I don't still understand, everybody. This is the hole in that whole thing, Mr. Martin Gray. Willow, who is not married to Michael. No, I said Willow. Nina. Nina, who is not married to Michael, petitioned this. Martin still needed Willow's signature. Martin still needed Willow's consent to file for a legal separation. How'd that happen without Willow's signature? Willow didn't know nothing about it. So that's the big hole in the way that happened. That would be just like Tracy went ahead and had Diane real quick put some divorce papers together and serve Willow with divorce papers. And Michael don't know nothing about it. See, it doesn't happen that way. Willow would have to have signed for those papers. That's a little hole in the writing, right? So anyway, Willow, she goes, but Nina, it's only been one day. She goes, we have to act fast. And so Willow was saying, oh, somehow she brought up, Drew came up. No, she goes, Michael's entire family is going to side with him, Willow. And they're going to come after you. So Willow said, well, not his entire family, not Drew. And Nina looked at her. She goes, Willow, you cannot trust Drew. You can't trust a man like Drew. Yes, I can. Oh, and speaking of Drew, I invited him and Scout over for Christmas Eve. And Nina said, absolutely not. She goes, Willow, you do understand you're gearing up for a court battle. You do understand that, right? And Willow said, but this is Christmas. This is the holidays. And Nina says, and you still are gearing up for a huge custody battle. Diane Miller is going to use the fact that the man you slept with, you had over for Christmas Eve when you took, I mean, where Michael's children, you took from him Christmas Eve to be around the man you had the affair with and his child. Willow, that's going to be damaging to your case. We'll let the lawyer sort it out. It's Christmas and no one should be alone. And Nina looked at her and she goes, can't you just be my mother right now? That's all she had to say. And Nina looked at Willow. She said, mother, Mother. Well, okay. She goes, I will go talk to Drew. This is Willow. I will let Drew know the rules. We will never be alone. It's just for the kids. And I'm thinking, how could you be alone? Nina's place ain't that big. So that whole statement wasn't needed because it's for the kids, right? So she goes, Nina says, no, 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 no. Let me handle that. I'm going to go and talk to Drew myself. I will, don't worry about it. Yes, it's fine. He can come. Okay. But I'll talk to him. This is probably where Nina's going to let him have it. And he's going to just completely dismiss her, right? Because I saw scenes uh, where Willow's saying, talk alone, talking to Drew, you know, I'm beginning to think I didn't know Michael at all because Michael probably then did have Diane draw up some papers and have Willow served on Christmas Eve. Watch. See, I'm beginning to think I didn't know him at all. Oh, but you served him. You cheated on him. So I think he should be the one thinking, I didn't know you at all. Right? Miss Perfect? So we have Sasha has a brief conversation with Jason. She thanks Jason for saving her, and it's a conversation. He was bringing his plate into he was the kitchen. He was actually going to wash it, and she goes, "Well, no, 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 put that down." And he goes, I believe in cleaning up after myself." And so Sasha says, "How would you feel if somebody tried to do your job for you?" And he just looked at her because she's trying to do meal planning with all the leftovers they're going to have for the holiday. She goes, I have to be very creative. I can't just serve leftovers. Or there are some people in the family will think I'm slacking. Jason says, nobody's going to think you're slacking. She says, have you met Tracy? And he goes, oh, yeah, I guess she, I guess she would, you know. So anyway, they have a quick little talk and Jason's on his way out and Tracy stops him pretty much just kind of berates him a bit, not yelling at him, but you're a thug, you're a murderer, you're a hitman, you're a this. Oh, she just ran down a list of negatives. And Jason's just looking at her. He goes, what's your point? she looked, she goes, my point is this. There's no secret how I feel about you. Jason said, again, what's your point? She says, my point is this. You have never pretended to be anything than what you are. Never. She says, we get your degenerate brother just trying to grab the name and claim it, the Quartermaine name. But you, on the other hand, rejected it at every turn. She goes, you are more a Quartermaine than your brother ever will be. And Jason looked at her. He says, I hadn't looked at it that way. He said, but understand this. I'm only here for Danny. Only for Danny. And I am going to try to get along with everybody in this house, including you, Tracy. And she just looked at him and was like, oh, okay, all right, Now, then they had a quick scene of Brooklyn and Geo wrapping gifts. Brooklyn does not know that's her son. I can tell. She has no clue that he is her son. And he would bring up his mother, that she reminds him of his her mother. His mother would say that, and blah blah blah. So they have some real sweet memories because she said you should be out with friends, for the holidays. And he just, yeah, I'm here with family. And Jocelyn is at Royce Plaza or Rice Plaza, whichever one it is. And she was just looking around because now it's been 24 hours. Her little alarm went off. I hope she don't have an alarm the same time every day to go off, reminding her Dex died at that time. But anyway, Cameron sees her and he walks up and he goes, Jocelyn. And she goes, Cameron, when did you get here? And he says, oh, I'm just passing through. He says, I'm passing through. She goes, passing through on your way to where? He goes, Key West. And so she says, it's good to see you. And they hug each other, briefly, friendly hug. And so his Gretchen comes up and she goes, Cameron? And she looks at Jocelyn. She goes, Cameron says, oh, Jocelyn, me, Gretchen. Or he may have even said my girlfriend, Gretchen. And she reached over and she shook Jocelyn's hand, and Jocelyn just kind of looked at her. And she goes, listen, Cam or Cameron, I don't know what she calls him. We really got to go. We got to catch our flight. So she looked and he looked at Jocelyn and Jocelyn looked at him and she goes, but you know what? I'm going to go call our ride share, okay? And he goes, all right. So Jocelyn looked at him and says, are you two going to Key West together? He said, yes, her family has a home on the water there. And so he goes, what are you and Dex doing for Christmas? And she looked at him and she goes, there is no way you would know this. Dex recently died. And then I think she ended up saying like last night. And he goes, oh, I am so sorry, Jocelyn. He says, I know this is hard for you. And so she's like, yeah. And he hugged her. But it's like, see ya. But he's like, Jocelyn, I'm actually okay with the fact that you and Dex found each other. I'm glad you had found each other, right? So he hugged her and he's like, I gotta go. And he leaves. And that's when her alarm went off. And she goes, it's been a whole 24 hours without you, Dex. And then the bells and like little Christmas mystical, little like got a little angel coming down. And she looked over, and boy, Dex was handsome in his cop uniform, all spiffied up. I was like, looky there, Dex is looking good. So she saw him and she was like, oh. Then, of course, when she looked away and looked back, he was gone, which we knew would happen because that was just wishful thinking, right? That was definite wishful thinking. And that's it, everybody. I have covered pretty much everything on General Hospital today. I mean, okay, had some stuff to talk about, right? Comic Corner, y'all. 133 comments. You all did the darn thing. Excellent. That conversation was popping off too much for me to even attempt to try to read any of them. Everybody go in and read Comic Corner. It's like family talking about GH and what you think and what you're talking about. Keep it going. I love it. I would like those comments to get up to 150. Excellent, excellent job on Comic Corner. So I will be back tomorrow, Friday. Let's see, will we have a cliffhanger Friday? I'll be back tomorrow for another daily recap of General Hospital.